First story, by John Smith. It was a chilly October night when my friend Mark and I decided to explore the abandoned Belford manufacturing factory on the outskirts of Bridgeport, Connecticut. The factory had been a bustling hub of industry in its heyday, but now it lay dormant, an eerie relic of the past. We were both adrenaline junkies, always seeking out new adventures. This time, we'd heard rumors about the factory being a popular spot for urban explorers. Armed with flashlights, we made our way through the decaying streets of Bridgeport towards our destination. The factory loomed ahead, a massive hulk of rusted metal and broken windows. It looked like it had been abandoned for decades, and nature had begun to reclaim it. Ivy crawled up the walls, and the once paved parking lot was now a tangle of overgrown weeds. As we stepped inside, the air grew colder, and our flashlights cast eerie shadows on the crumbling walls. The building was a maze of rusted machinery, broken glass, and remnants of a forgotten era. The sound of our footsteps echoed through the darkness. We explored the factory for what felt like hours, but we hadn't encountered anything out of the ordinary, just the typical graffiti-covered walls and piles of debris. Mark and I shared nervous laughter, trying to shake off the eerie feeling that had settled over us. That's when we heard it, a faint, muffled sound coming from deeper within the factory. It was the sound of hushed voices, punctuated by nervous laughter. Our curiosity got the better of us, and we followed the sound, flashlight beams dancing in the darkness. We turned a corner and found ourselves in a large, dimly lit room. In the center of the room, a group of people had gathered around a makeshift altar. Their faces were obscured by dark hooded robes, and they held candles that cast an eerie glow on their surroundings. In the center of the altar lay a bound and gagged person, their eyes wide with terror. Mark and I exchanged panicked glances, our hearts racing. We were not prepared for this. We crouched down behind some crates, trying to make sense of the situation without being noticed. The people in robes chanted in a language we couldn't understand, and the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. It was clear that whatever was happening here was not a mere prank or coincidence. These people were up to something sinister. As we watched in horror, one of the robed figures raised a knife high above their head, preparing to strike the helpless victim on the altar. That's when Mark and I knew we had to act. We couldn't let this person die in front of us. We waited for a moment when the attention of the robed group was elsewhere, then sprang into action. We rushed forward, our flashlights blinding the cultists for a moment as we tackled the one with the knife. Chaos erupted as the others struggled to react. We managed to free the bound person and, in the ensuing confusion, made our escape from the factory. We called the police as soon as we were a safe distance away, and they arrived at the scene within minutes. The cultists were arrested, and we learned that they had been involved in a series of disturbing rituals involving human sacrifice. It was a nightmarish experience that still haunts both of us to this day. We were just urban explorers looking for adventure, but we had stumbled upon something far more horrifying than we could have ever imagined. Second story, by Emily Parker. It was a crisp autumn evening when my friends and I decided to explore the abandoned Willowbrook Asylum in upstate New York. The sprawling complex had a dark history, and stories of its haunted past had drawn us in like moths to a flame. My friends Sarah, Chris, and I were no strangers to urban exploration. We had visited numerous abandoned places before, but Willowbrook was different. It had an aura of malevolence that sent shivers down our spines as we approached the decaying entrance. The asylum loomed before us, a massive structure with broken windows and overgrown vines. The moonlight cast eerie shadows across the overgrown courtyard. We ventured inside, our flashlights cutting through the darkness like beacons of hope. As we explored the asylum's grim corridors, we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. It was subtle at first, just a nagging sense of unease. We laughed it off as our overactive imaginations playing tricks on us, but the feeling persisted. As we delved deeper into the asylum, the sensation of being watched grew more pronounced. We began to hear faint whispers and footsteps echoing through the empty halls. Panic set in as we realized we were not alone. We decided to regroup in a small room, hoping to gather our courage and figure out our next move. Sarah clutched her camera tightly, ready to document our adventure. Chris and I exchanged nervous glances, our senses on high alert. That's when we heard it, a chilling, disembodied voice that seemed to come from all directions. It whispered our names, taunting us with unnerving familiarity. Emily, Sarah, Chris. We froze, our flashlights trembling in our hands. The voice grew louder, more menacing. It knew our names, and it seemed to revel in our fear. Without warning, the room's door slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping us inside. We screamed and pounded on the door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic consumed us as we realized we were at the mercy of an unknown entity. The room grew colder, and our breaths formed frosty clouds in the air. The voice continued to torment us, its sinister laughter echoing in our ears. We felt an oppressive presence in the room, as if something malevolent was closing in on us. Desperate to escape, we searched for any means of exit. As our flashlights scanned the room, we discovered a small hatch in the floor. Without hesitation, we pried it open and descended into the darkness below. We found ourselves in a network of tunnels beneath the asylum, and the oppressive presence above seemed to dissipate. We ran through the labyrinthine passages, praying for an exit. Eventually, we emerged into the moonlit night, gasping for breath. We never discovered the source of the voice or the entity that had stalked us that night. Willowbrook Asylum remained a dark, enigmatic place, and our terrifying encounter left us scarred. We vowed never to return to that forsaken place, haunted by the memory of the voice that knew our names. Third story, by Daniel Mitchell. It was the summer of 2023 when my college friends and I embarked on a backpacking trip through the French countryside. Our adventure had led us to the picturesque region of Provence, where we stumbled upon an abandoned mansion nestled among rolling vineyards and lavender fields. The mansion was a grand, weathered structure, reminiscent of a bygone era. Its windows were shattered, and ivy crawled up the walls, creating an eerie facade. We couldn't resist the allure of exploring its hidden secrets. My friends Sarah, Alex, and I decided to enter the mansion one warm evening. Armed with flashlights and a sense of curiosity, we pushed open the creaking doors and stepped into the dimly lit foyer. The interior was a maze of dusty rooms, antique furniture, and faded wallpaper. We wandered through the mansion, marveling at the remnants of its former glory. As we ventured deeper, we stumbled upon a locked door that piqued our interest. Using a bit of ingenuity and a well-placed shoulder, we managed to force the door open. Beyond it, we discovered a hidden chamber filled with ancient manuscripts, artwork, and a collection of strange, occult artifacts. Excitement filled the air as we examined our newfound treasures. We couldn't believe our luck. Little did we know that our discovery would plunge us into a perilous web of intrigue and danger. As we delved further into the chamber, the sound of footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. We exchanged nervous glances, our hearts pounding in our chests. Someone was in the mansion with us. We huddled in the darkened chamber, our flashlights turned off, and listened as the intruder moved closer. The footsteps were deliberate, purposeful, and it was clear that this person knew the mansion well. Through a crack in the chamber's door, we watched as a man in a tailored suit entered the room. He carried a briefcase and seemed unfazed by the disarray of the chamber. It was clear that he was no ordinary intruder. We overheard hushed conversations on his phone, discussing the importance of retrieving the artifacts we had discovered. Panic surged through us as we realized we had stumbled upon something far more sinister than we had imagined. Unable to escape through the front entrance without being seen, we decided to make a daring escape through a second-story window. With a sense of urgency, we climbed onto the mansion's roof and made our way to the edge. As we lowered ourselves down the ivy-covered walls, we heard the intruder enter the chamber. Our hearts raced as we prayed he wouldn't discover our escape. Miraculously, we landed safely on the ground and made a mad dash through the vineyards and lavender fields. We eventually reached a nearby village, where we contacted the authorities. It turned out that the mansion had been the secret hideaway of a criminal organization involved in art theft and espionage. Our backpacking trip through Provence had taken an unexpected turn, and our encounter with the mysterious intruder haunted our dreams for years to come. We had gone from exploring an abandoned mansion to becoming unwitting players in a dangerous game of deception and intrigue. These 3 stories remind us that the darkness that lurks in abandoned places isn't always supernatural. It can be the darkness within human hearts, waiting to ensnare those who dare to tread where they shouldn't. Thank you for sticking with us through the whole video. Also, I recommend you this video you see on screen, one of the scariest on my channel. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. This helps me bring you more thrilling content every day. If this video sent shivers down your spine, let me know in the comments.